Hello and welcome to this special presentation on Rajya Sabha television, the question hour, wherein we bring you some important questions asked by the members of parliament and responded to by the government in the previous session. I am Vishal Dahiya and with me is my colleague Kriti Mishra.
Thank you so much, Vishal. So let's take our viewers through important questions and answers that we've picked for them in this session of Question Hour. So the first question that we've picked up is from member Sukhdev Singh Dhinsa, and this one pertains to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. And Mr. Dhinsa has asked whether any additional facilities are being provided to the farmers at the border areas touching Pakistan who lost their crop in the firing from across the border.
Well, the Ministry of Agriculture in its response to this question says that Ministry of Home Affairs is implementing the Border Area Development Program, that is BADP, which supports for development of a community-based infrastructure including agriculture and allied sector in border areas of the states of Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir touching Pakistan. Besides BADP, centrally sponsored schemes like National Food Security Mission, Crop Diversification Program, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, remunerative approaches for agriculture and allied sector rejuvenation, submission on agricultural mechanization, etc. are also implemented by the concerned states in different districts, including border districts touching Pakistan, to increase the production and productivity of the field crops. These interventions cover all farmers of the border areas touching Pakistan without any specificity of loss of crops due to firing. Well, the next question is also addressed to the Ministry of Agriculture, and this one comes in from member KK Ragesh, who wants to know from the government whether it is a fact that the MSP is not benefiting the majority of farmers in the country.
Well, the government has given a very comprehensive reply to this question, and the government goes on to say that to provide the benefit of MSP to the farmers, government agencies procure the notified agricultural produce of fair average quality or FAQ at MSP directly from the farmers in consultation with the concerned state governments and union territories, and when market price of these produce fall below the MSP as per prescribed guidelines. The payments to the farmers are made through real-time gross settlement, which is also known as RTGS, and National Electronic Fund Transfer NEFT, and account paid check by procuring agencies. However, if farmers get better prices in comparison to MSP, they are free to sell their produce in open market. The government further says that another benefit of procurement at MSP is that some of the excess supply of the commodity is sucked out of the market through these operations, so that better prices are offered even by the market to the other farmers. In such a way, the benefit of MSP procurement reaches even those farmers whose harvest was not directly procured under MSP. To provide benefit of MSP to farmers, an umbrella scheme of Pradhan Mantri Annadata Aay Sanrakshan Abhiyan comprising price support scheme, price deficiency payment scheme and pilot of private procurement and stockist scheme and existing schemes of Department of Food and Public Enterprises and Ministry of Textiles are being undertaken by the government. The government extends price support to paddy and wheat through the FCI and state agencies across the country. The procurement policy is open-ended, and this policy, whatever food grains are offered by the farmers within the stipulated period and conforming to the specifications prescribed by the government, are purchased at MSP by state government agencies, including Food Corporation of India for Central Pool. Moving on to the next question asked by member Ami Yagnik, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy and Unani, and the member has asked whether the government has any proposal to provide grants to promote new naturopathy centres across the country.
Well, the ministry in its response says that health is a state subject and opening of new naturopathy centres comes under purview of respective state governments and the union territory governments. However, under centrally sponsored scheme of National Ayush Mission, there is provision of financial assistance to state and union territory governments for setting up of Ayush wellness centres, including yoga and naturopathy. State and UT governments may avail eligible financial assistance by projecting the same through State Annual Action Plan as per the NAM guidelines. At the central level, Ministry of Ayush through its two autonomous bodies, namely Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, New Delhi, and National Institute of Naturopathy, Pune, actively promotes naturopathy activities across the country. The next question is addressed to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and this one comes in from member Bhuvneshwar Kalita, who wants to know from the government whether it has approved a proposal to lease out some airports, including the Guwahati airport, for operations, management and development, etc., under the public-private partnership model.
The response says that Government of India accorded in principle approval for leasing of 6 airports of Airports Authority of India, and these include Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Lucknow, Guwahati, Thiruvananthapuram and Mangaluru for operation, management and development through public-private partnership. Accordingly, Airports Authority of India floated a global tender for inviting bids and identified the highest bidder. Based on the same, AAI has issued the letter of award for handing over Ahmedabad, Lucknow and Mangaluru airports to Adani Enterprises Limited. The government further says that Airports Authority of India will continue to carry out its statutory functions of providing communication, navigation, surveillance, air traffic management services at these airports after implementation of the PPP project. AAI will also facilitate for provision of reverse services, activities like security, custom, immigration, plant and animal quarantine and met services to be performed by the concerned government agencies. Besides, the AAI will also carry out periodic monitoring services or quality or various obligations to be discharged by the concessionaire in terms of key performance indicators as per the provisions of the concession agreement. Let's move on to the next question asked by member T. Subirami Reddy, and this one also pertains to the Ministry of Civil Aviation. And Mr. Reddy has asked whether airlines operating in India have hired foreign pilots to operate domestic and international flights during the last 3 years.
Well, the response from the Civil Aviation Ministry to this question is in affirmative, and it further says that the number of foreign pilots hired by airlines in India for the last 3 years are: in 2017, 249 pilots, in 2018, 324 pilots, and in 2019 till 10th of June, 404 pilots. The ministry further says that there is a shortage of type-rated pilot in command, instructor, examiner in the country, and to overcome the shortage of type-rated pilot in command, instructor, examiner, validation of foreign license is done by Directorate General of Civil Aviation, that is DGCA, under provisions contained in Rule 45 of Aircraft Rules 1937. The procedure laid down in Civil Aviation Requirements CAR Section 7 Series G Part 2 and the provisions of Foreign Aircrew Temporary Authorization. The provisions of FATA are renewed from time to time depending upon the industry requirements. Presently, the provisions of FATA is up to 31st of December 2020. Now, to overcome the shortage of pilots, all the scheduled and non-scheduled airlines have been advised to develop their own strength to reduce the dependency on foreign pilots. Accordingly, airlines train their pilots to upgrade them as commanders, pilot in command, to reduce the dependency on foreign pilots. The next question is addressed to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and this one comes in from member PL Punya, who wants to know from the government about the countries in whose preferential trade list India figures and the details as well.
Well, in the response, the government says that some developed countries, including the European Union, provide unilateral tariff preferences on exports from developing countries, least developing country under their Generalized System of Preference or the GSP scheme. As per the WTO, India is a beneficiary of GSP provided by Armenia, Australia, European Union, Japan, Kazakhstan, New Zealand, Norway, Russian Federation, Switzerland and Turkey. The government further says that USA has terminated preferential tariff benefits being granted to India under its Generalized System of Preferences scheme since June 5, 2019. India exported $6.3 billion worth of goods to US under GSP in 2018 and availed duty concessions to the tune of $240 million in the year 2018. Let's move on to the last question, and this one has been asked by member R. Lakshmanan, and this one also pertains to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And the member has asked whether the government has fixed any date to put in place a holistic mechanism to find solution to cross-cutting issues facing the e-commerce industry in India.
Well, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, in a very precise answer, says that a standing group of secretaries has already been constituted under the chairmanship of the Secretary, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, for ensuring interministerial, interdepartmental coordination on resolving cross-cutting issues relating to e-commerce. Further, a draft national e-commerce policy has been drafted and placed in public domain. Now, this policy addresses broad areas of the e-commerce ecosystem such as infrastructure development, e-commerce marketplaces, regulatory issues, stimulating domestic digital economy and export promotion through e-commerce. So, Kriti, that's all we have for our viewers in this segment of Question Hour.
That's right, Vishal, but Prashn Kal on the other side with our colleagues Arvind Singh and Preeti Singh. Stay tuned.